Paul, good afternoon. Thank you for being with us today. We've got you for 10 minutes this afternoon, so I'll just invite you to begin your presentation.
Indeed, and thank you very much for the opportunity. And it's been interesting watching other people present on both for and against, obviously, and it's wonderful to be part of a democratic process where we can discuss the laws that are made that affect our lives. I'm not going to go through my presentation because I understand that you've all read it, but I just wanted to briefly introduce this time before questions. In reading through some of the other submissions, in particular the Maori Council submission, they asked the question, what is the problem? So I thought I should start just briefly there. And it's really a set of questions. And the question is this: how did we arrive from 1975 Treaty of Waitangi Act with its idealism and its constructive nature and the success it brought, and end up now being a country that where we find that we spend millions of dollars playing whale songs to kari trees to check whether that will in any way cure kari dieback? How did we go from the brilliant settlement that Ngāti Whātua achieved, and then their extraordinary success, their investment success, and then end up being a country where professional bodies such as land agents have to go through obsequious, trite courses to be a Te Treaty partner? How did we go from the settlements of mid-North Island tribes and find that the port of Tauranga was unable to be developed for several years as it was stonewalled by parties who were seeking large emoluments of money? And I guess above all, how did we go from that idealism and the practical constructive nature for settlement legislation to a place now where we are dealing with the utterly impractical issues and proposals of Say He Puapua? So the proposition that I put in my submission was simply we got to this position because we made a mistake. Parliament made a mistake. It did not define the principles of the treaty. And the subsequent mistake was the mistake that started with the perhaps inadvertent use of the term partnership in the lands case, but it's nevertheless now been concreted into our modern understanding of the treaty. And partnership, in my view, is the doorway to the questions around sovereignty and the issues of differential voting rights. And so it's sovereignty and partnership that we got wrong. And I'm not going to go through the clause by clause analysis that I put forward in the paper. It's not, in my view, controversial. It's there are left and right wing people that accept or believe that the courts have simply misunderstood the treaty, and partnership is a contradiction of the clause of the treaty. But I do want to just, before I stop, reflect on that fantastic debate between Epirama, Tanui, Frederick Manning and Hobson, when they asked Hobson and suggested instead of sovereignty being offered to the Queen, that instead it would only be offered over Pākehā and sovereignty would be retained by Maori over Maori. And Hobson absolutely rejected that proposition and said sovereignty is universal and it must and indivisible. And so these negotiations were had at the time, and if people have the time to, and I believe everyone should read the transcripts later of the Koimaramara conferences where these things were reconfirmed, I think we come to a position where we can no longer leave the evolution and the endless evolution of what it means and what the treaty means inside of our legislation. We need to be able to see it addressed by Parliament. That's all I have to say. I'm just open to questions.
Thank you, Paul. We do have time for questions. The first one is from Tuckers.
Kia ora, Paul. Thanks for your submission. Hey, I'm just wondering if, there's been a lot of talk about sovereignty, cessation, yes, no, the other thing. But internationally, if we really get down to it, if there's difference in interpretation of the two treaties that our country deals with, then through a act of international treaty law called contra preferendum, the indigenous language version wins out. So I'm just wondering if you can point out for me in the Māori text of Te Tiriti o Waitangi where Māori cede their sovereignty.
I think the easier way to do it is just to simply say, could you point out to me at what point Tamati Wakanini did not understand the ceding of sovereignty?
Well, the text is the text. The text is the text. It's what we have to deal with. Sorry, the text is the text, so it's what we have to deal with.
He signed the text.
People said a lot of things, but I'm just asking you if it's in there in the Māori text somewhere.
I would have thought clause 1's clear enough for you using the Kawhara translation.
Or just again in the Māori text, if you can point it out, that'd be great.
I've just pointed it out with the Kawhara translation.
Is that the Māori text?
You don't want to hear my I don't intend to speak to you in Maori. Wonderful language, but it's not something that I'm,
Okay, folks, is there any further questions for Paul? No, Paul, there's no further questions from the committee. Thank you for your time this afternoon and for providing your submission.
I have to be honest, I always like how Takuta's always being smack on the money with all his questions, and he always riles up people who have a very unrealistic point of view on things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can only but laugh at that.
That was good. I hadn't heard that one. I really liked that. I liked what that fellow said. Again, he came across as being genuine, and he was coming at it from a reasonable angle. I won't say what was wrong with it. I'll let someone else speak now, but I've got a very clear view about
The
where it
chat
made a
will
mistake.
solve that problem.
Oh yeah, chat is absolutely going through everything wrong with that. But you know, I love watching Takuta just pick apart all the holes that people leave in their submissions. He is just so much fun to watch.
I'm proud, even though I am on the general role, to have him as my Māori local MP.
Doc, I used to teach at the Wānanga Raukawa, and Doc Otapu was actually one of my students, and that was 20 years ago. So we were both much younger, but he's grown into a very impressive young man. Hey, look, if I could just share one thought about the indivisibility of sovereignty and the mistake of the partnership frame. See, the treaty doesn't actually, or Te Tiriti o Waitangi actually doesn't speak to partnership. But what it does is explicitly signify or speak to the ceding of governorship to the British and the concurrent acknowledgement of the existence of rangatino rangatiratanga or total chieftainship of the tribes. So there is an obvious logical tension between the idea that the British get to come here and exert their laws over their people in the lands of the tribes that have agreed, and the chiefs and their people will get to take care of themselves. And at the same time, British law and rights are going to be made available. There is logical tension there in the coexistence of Kāwanatanga and Rangatiratanga. It actually was a pretty wise Gordian knot solution of the courts to identify a partnered way of reconciling that logical tension. That's the only observation I'd make.
Yeah, all I would add is that I find it ironic how a lot of these people just agreeing with the bill rather middle-aged people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny that.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok.